Welcome to another episode of Community Chat. My name is Kevin Tocci, and what do we do here? Well, this is kind of a show that we talk about so many different things. It could be upcoming events, it could be special guests. It's political season, so we have folks who come in and want to talk about their campaigns. But the idea is to make you better, help you be better informed as a resident about a lot of things that are going on. And if we can give you that much information, then we are helping do what we do best, and that is better inform the residents who are subscribers and those who love our programs. Today, we have a very, very special guest. You've probably seen our guest, as she has not only done her own show here called Hitting Home. It was a 10-part series with a good friend of ours. Also, she does a new show. It's a new podcast that has been airing here, AI for Growth, Lessons from Leaders. She's got so many titles: author, successful business owner, entrepreneur, somebody who has led the charge for wage equity, not only a bill but also amendments. And she's somebody who's from around the way. And we're here to learn about her and also her newest venture, and learn a little bit about AI, because she's a specialist in that area. We're talking about the one and only Megan Driscoll is our guest.
Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
It's great to have you
here.
I think I kind of did the top of the mountain as to who you are, a little bit about yourself. We're here to kind of get an idea as to all that you do. I think mainly, though, I think folks their interest is piqued when it comes to AI.
Yeah.
So a good portion of our conversation will be that. You're also offering business coaching. We'll talk a little bit about that. How did you get started? Somebody who, 25 years of building and scaling businesses and being able to eventually sell off that company, but it's something that has grown into a global organization.
Yeah. Well, I, like many entrepreneurs, worked in a field. I was working in recruiting, and I kind of felt like I could do it better. So when I was 25, I actually went out on my own and started my own recruiting company. That recruiting company, I grew from just me basically to about 150, 180 employees. I sold it to a private equity firm in 2017, and then I stepped down as the CEO in 2020. We started working together on getting the word out on the legislation, so I sort of dove into getting wage equity passed, which did finally pass in 2024 and is now law as of 2025. We have, in Massachusetts, one of the strongest wage equity laws in the country now because of it. And I partnered with the former Lieutenant Governor, Evelyn Murphy, on that. So after that, I started doing some business consulting and helping businesses grow. And what I found was very quickly that AI was sort of it was the number one thing that companies that I was working with, small companies, were not using and really needed to use, and saw that that was going to change the trajectory of business moving forward. So I sort of dove into that, and so now that's what I officially do. I'm also the executive chair of I sit on the board of a life science recruiting company, and I advise their CEO on growth and development. And I'm also on the Mass State Workforce Board, which is a governor-appointed board in Massachusetts looking at policy related to just our general workforce and sort of employment in general in Massachusetts. So so it's a lot of little things that I sort of put together that are all focused in growth and career and business and all that kind of good stuff.
How are you able to stay so focused, being involved in so many different things? How do you do it? What's your key to success?
This has come up actually recently, because I think what I've found actually over time is that I do this one thing really well, and a lot of people don't do it well. I compartmentalize.
Ooh.
So I can switch gears really fast and focus on one thing, and then I can close that door and move on to another thing. I don't let before carry into, and I can actually do that in my personal life too. It was really helpful as a CEO, because I would have, I still booked all the medical appointments for my children and organized whether or not they were ready for the SAT and helped them get college coaches interested in, all the things, and was running, a very large organization that had over 150 million in revenue. So that skill of compartmentalizing and putting things in boxes has been, I think, like the key to my success. And if I could teach people how to do it, I think that everybody would be better off for it. Because I found that it is hard for people to transition, or they ruminate and think about things, overthink. I don't operate that way. I kind of like make a decision, move forward, so that I can kind of put things in boxes.
Let's talk about finding, being the founder of PharmaLogics Recruiting.
Yeah.
200 employees, over 150 million in revenue. Looking back, talk to us about the keys to success and how you utilize those ingredients to be able to move forward and reinvent yourself when it comes to helping folks understand this complex thing called AI.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things about PharmaLogics that I recognize in retrospect, like thinking back about why it was successful, there was obviously a lot of luck involved. A lot of like things had to go right. But I would say the key to the success of that business, and what I encourage my business owners that I work with today, both on the consulting side, but also companies that are working with me to implement revenue generation AI programs, is that innovation is like the key, right? If you are always doing things the way they've always been done forever, because that's the way they've always been done, you're going to be left behind. And that's not just in tech, that's just in the way we think about things. So when we came up with our list of like what are our values that PharmaLogics Recruiting is going to operate under, innovation was always the first one. So it's looking at things and saying, well, we're not going to break it if it's working, we're not going to break it necessarily. But if there's something not working with it, we're going to pull it apart and see if there's a totally different way we can approach it. Maybe just from a thought process, maybe it's a personnel issue, or maybe it's just the tech that we need to implement to change the way we do it. So I think innovation is key. And then the other piece that I think we had nailed down was, with effort and time, you can solve almost any problem. So whether it was an internal operational issue bottleneck, whether it was a financial bottleneck, whether it was a customer issue that we were seeing over and over, whether it was a tech problem, if you put enough effort and time into it, you will solve that problem. And then that layered with innovation allowed us to grow, I think, more quickly than most businesses expect. I mean, I think in 2008, when I was actually concerned we might go out of business, actually, just because of the nature of
tough times.
Yeah, we were staring down the barrel of like not very much hiring and companies getting, not growing, and I do feel like the innovation was what kind of got us out of that jam, essentially. I don't think that we would have been able to grow as fast if we had not. We came up with an entirely new program to launch that was kind of a low-cost recruiting model that had never been seen in the recruiting industry, and it really caught on. Good timing, good idea, but it allowed us to grow from, at the time, I think we maybe were less than $1 million in revenue after 2008, and we sold our business at a much higher number. So we were able to grow to 250. What is that, in less than 10 years? Yeah.
Do you feel that successful business owners are those who don't want to talk about the failures? Because I feel that failure and success go hand in hand.
Yeah.
What kind of trial and error and failures did you have to go through to be able to elevate the successes in your business?
Yeah. Well, there are two sort of major things that happened during the time that I ran PharmaLogics. Number one, when I was just starting, pretty much, I mean, we hadn't been in business that long. I was pregnant with my first child. I had her. She was 5 weeks old. And 2 of my 7 employees, while I was on maternity leave, downloaded my entire database and set up a competing company over the weekend. And I couldn't allow that to happen, obviously, so I did have to get into, which was my one and only legal entanglement in all of the years that I ran PharmaLogics. I actually sued them in federal court, but we won. We won about $250,000. I paid $170,000 in lawyers' fees to get there, and I was unable to breastfeed my daughter because of the stress. So was it worth it? That's a question. I learned that the only people that win in litigation are lawyers, but that did.
Very true.
It was the beginning of me being like, if I can survive this, I can survive anything. Like if I can wake up in the morning and still want to go to work after this betrayal, so I was very determined at that point. So once I got through that, I was kind of like, hit me with some things, because I can handle it. I can handle a newborn baby, a federal court case, winning, all of it, and the struggle that was. So that was a defining moment just for me personally as a leader, to know that I could handle very hard things, which I think as a CEO is an important lesson to learn, that you can kind of get through the hard times. And then, like I said, the 2008 was a really big turning point. I was unsure whether we were going to continue to be able to move forward. I was the primary breadwinner. My house mortgage was kind of on the line at that point. So there was a lot at risk if the company didn't survive. So we kind of buttoned down the hatches. We reduced our staff. We took pay cuts. We took a kind of like all company approach to sort of stay alive. And then we came up with this really exciting idea. And the idea came out of, actually, Duxbury went from I live in Duxbury, and we went from a dump sticker, throw everything away, to a pay-as-you-throw, so bag. And in doing so, I thought, pay for what you use and not just a standard fee. And that really made the connection to me with recruiting, because up until that point, recruiting is driven through a pay for 25% of base pay is what you get paid. And I said, well, I wonder if we could do that differently, because it's not tied to any amount of time that you actually spend working on the jobs. So that was how we innovated, and I sort of came up with this new idea of, can you pay less as the customer, and we deliver the same and better product. And we were able to do that, and it blew up from there. And that was really the reason why we grew so fast.
Sounds like a couple of episodes of Billions. I don't know if you've ever watched the show.
I have watched it, yes. Not completely in its entirety, but I've seen several of the shows.
Yeah, there's a couple of those where they go out on Axel, and the lead character, and he finds out, and then basically walks and goes, all right, now you all work for me. And it's just, if you have never seen the show, it's a really good show. But let's talk a little bit about Megan Driscoll Consulting.
Yeah.
You help founders grow with better sales systems and lead generation.
Yes.
What are the biggest mistakes that you see businesses making when it comes to sales?
So, there are a couple. Number one, a lot of business owners, especially not necessarily entrepreneurs, because I think that an entrepreneur is at their base willing to take risk, right? There are a lot of business owners that I would say don't want to take risk, and they don't want to do sales at all. They want to outsource that sales. They want to quickly hire someone to do the sales for them. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes for small businesses to make. You understand and know your business better than anyone else. So you obviously can sell it better than anyone else. And you have more on the line if it doesn't succeed. And what I tell business owners all the time is, you have no company if you don't have sales. You can have the best product, the best idea, and if nobody buys it, it doesn't matter, right? So sales is your number one most important thing, and you want to put your best foot forward, which is you. I didn't leave sales entirely within PharmaLogics until maybe we were over 100 employees at that point. And I would still kind of get brought in at the end for like a big close. I would want to be at that table signing that big contract. We did at the end like hires for 200 plus people. So these were really big projects that we were working on, and I was still involved. So I think that owners give that up too easily, or decide they outsource it quickly because they don't want to do it. That's number one. Number two is they don't have a sales system, so they don't have an approach to it. It's willy-nilly, it's here or there. You can only survive on referral for so long. You can only get so big based on referrals. You do have to go out and acquire new clients. And acquiring new clients costs money, and it's hard, and it requires work, but it's the only way to really grow. And so the question is, how do you do that effectively? So many small businesses are working still on Google spreadsheets, and they're managing their sales process on a spreadsheet, which is a static, impossible to grow situation. You can run a business for a little while, and you can do referral based, but you can't grow in any significant way if you're working on a Google spreadsheet, or an Excel spreadsheet. So what I do is I help companies get out of that system and into a system that is dynamic, that allows the platform to sell on your behalf while you're sleeping, as an example. So you're automating a lot of these sales tasks to stay on the forefront of someone's mind when you don't have to remember to do it or remember to follow up. We also take a lot of repetitive tasks off CEOs and owners' plates. It's super annoying to send a follow-up to a client, right? That's just an annoying thing you have to do. Thank you so much for your time. It was great to meet with you. Here's a proposal for my services, or let's connect another time. And then you have to remember to follow up with them, right? That's like a process that's just annoying. But imagine if you did follow up with them, and you followed up with them for like a year, right? you would never remember to do it. You don't have time to do it. But if you did, that would be a customer. And so what we do is we automate that whole process for them. So they don't have to do follow-up for anybody. Follow-up is happening behind the scenes, and it's coming from their voice, it's coming from their email, it's coming from them. So that's the kind of work that we do. We just sort of like make it, and then with time, right, if an owner has their time back to not have to worry about follow-up, they can do new sales. They can spread their wings in other places. They can expand. They can go to that networking meeting that they didn't have time to go to. So the idea is to free up the time for some of the annoying tasks, the repetitive tasks, in addition to automating just generally the sales process. So, yeah.
How did you go from closing out PharmaLogics to getting involved with AI? What was your first lessons, your first inception when it came to AI and understanding it and understanding how it could help impact small and medium businesses?
Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, AI, because, and I think that I wish that this is more clear even today, and it's not. So when I first left PharmaLogics, I was getting asked to help people find jobs because I was in recruiting or help them with their business. So I kind of hung up a shingle at Driscoll Consulting and was sort of helping people for fun, as friends and family and things like that, while I was working on the legislation. And then I got more serious requests of companies that really wanted to grow, and so I started really working with them and developing plans for them. And I've always been an early adopter of technology. So when I started PharmaLogics at 25, so this is going back how many ever years, 25 years plus, I immediately had a CRM, a client management system. I had tech already, and I was not doing anything on Google. On spreadsheets at the time. I never worked in that environment. I always wanted tech. We built our own applicant tracking system internally. I used Salesforce way before anybody was using Salesforce.
You implemented it.
I implemented Salesforce. We were a company that was very small for Salesforce, but we took it on very early. So I'm an early adopter of technology. I like technology. I think it's fun, and I think it's a way to accelerate your business for sure. If it's done right, and you know what you're doing, and you have the time and to dedicate to it. So I was always interested in tech. So when I started hearing about AI and tools for small businesses, I just started doing demos. I must have done 150, 200 demos. I mean, I just was on the phone all the time, was taking notes, trying to figure out like what systems were available to small businesses that they could implement. What I found, which is why this is a double-edged sword, is it's incredibly confusing. There are a lot of tools that solve a lot of problems that don't increase revenue. They may save you time in tasks that don't increase revenue. And so when I work with small businesses, they need to stay in business. Their primary responsibility is to stay in business. And that's a service to their employees and to their customers, right? So they need revenue. So then I sort of focused on what are the ways in which AI can support businesses who want to increase revenue? And what I found was that, again, it was also confusing, expensive. There's no tech support. There's no phone person. There's no one to call to get somebody on the phone to help you. It's always a chat bot, right? And they will say, well, we'll get back to you in 48 hours. And then that's a chat bot answer. And so it can be very frustrating to kind of move in this environment. So I felt as though that I had a niche there in helping companies implement technology without being the go-between. So I'm the go-between between the technology and the client. And so we kind of are talking about what are your operational bottlenecks, what are your bottlenecks to your sales process, and how can we implement the right technology at the right price at the right time and do it slowly so it doesn't feel overwhelming. Because I think the thing that small businesses are afraid of with AI is they're afraid they're going to buy the wrong tool, they're afraid that it's too much time, and they go down a rabbit hole, they spend 2 days on something, and it's for what? It didn't help them at all. Right. So I really try to help them save time in it, because the other thing is you only have so much bandwidth for this, right? So let's say you go down this rabbit hole and you buy this AI tool and you start a 7-day trial and you start using it and you're frustrated, right? So the end of the 7 days comes up, you've had to pay for it because you forgot to unsubscribe.
Happens to everybody.
Happens to everybody. You forgot to unsubscribe, you've wasted a bunch of time, you're not using it, and it's not going to help you. How likely are you to continue to do that? Not very likely, because it's annoying and it wastes time, and it's not helping you grow your business. So I just kind of say to people, don't Don't do that. If you want to increase revenue and increase sales, I can give you a very simple process to do that. And I really, honestly, I try to keep my prices super low because I am exclusively working with small businesses, and I do that for a reason. I don't have to do this. I want to do it. I love working with business owners. I love hearing their stories, their growth stories. I love being part of it. So there's no reason to get frustrated with it. There's simple ways in which you can implement technology. Automations. Don't even think about it as AI. Think about it as automating your sales process. Yes, we use AI to do it, but it's not about implementing AI. It's about implementing a process that helps you grow without you taking on the frustration of doing it yourself.
We should probably take a moment to let folks know that you actually offer a free hour
I do.
of business coaching.
Yep.
What is that? How do folks go about that? What is that like? Is that a moment to sit down and kind of get an idea as to where they're at and how at least lead them in a direction to start?
Yeah. So it's actually I approach it from two different ways. I approach it like we can either start this process with me just asking you a bunch of questions about your business and me giving you a bunch of free advice as to what I think you should do different or better. Or if you have a specific issue that you want to tackle and you want to figure out how you could do it better, I spend the hour working on that. So it's really open-ended, and there's no hook at the end. There's no you have to work with me. There's no sales process in any of it. It's really just me uncovering and understanding. Yeah, because this is the thing.
I love this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I work with like so many different kinds of businesses, like from coaches to people who run wellness centers, to private care doctors, to software companies, to a woman who turns over, she's like a real estate management company. So it's just really a salon. It's just a really cool group of companies that I work with, and yeah, I love the process of uncovering information and helping them. If I can share what I know about growth, right? If I can help an organization avoid a problem that I had to face, and we can just skip over that problem for them, that's there's no better win for me. I love that.
Let's talk about, I think you might have touched upon it a little bit in regards to business owners, especially when it comes to AI and how can they get started without feeling as though they have to be a technology expert. Where do you come in?
Yeah. So the first thing I do is we do the business audit, essentially, and you can access the business audit from my website, and maybe we'll attach a QR code to this segment or something today, so if people want to do it who've watched today.
Actually, it's been showing while we were talking.
Oh, amazing. Perfect. So I look forward to anybody who joins us on at a business audit. So what I first want to try to uncover is what is the process this company takes to do two things: acquire a new client and manage existing clients, right? Your best client is the client that's already purchased from you. And we always, generally speaking, small businesses do a terrible job of maintaining those relationships. And the cost to acquire a new client is high. So we don't want to be in a business where we want to continually acquire new clients, right? I'm always looking for stickiness, and it's not really a technical term, but it is a very widely used term in private equity. So if you think about a buyer of your business wants to know that the revenue is going to continue on and on, right? So they want business that's recurring, subscription business as an example. Clients that you can come and say, oh, I've had this, my client retention is 95% year over year, right? These are things that a new owner wants to see. So you need to know what those numbers are, and you need to have a system by which you can understand the percentages, right, and track it and be able to present that data. So I'm always thinking about what's the long-term goal of your organization. Are you going to run this until you're 70 and then close it and done? Are you trying to build it up so that your kids can take it over? Are you trying to build it up so that you can sell it? What's your end goal in mind? And then let's build in tools that help support that. And if you want to sell your business, there's a lot of things that a company is going to be looking for in terms of metrics, and a CRM, which is what I help companies implement, CRMs, which is a client management tool, a sales tool, a revenue tool, that comes with a lot of metrics, a lot of tracking, a lot of information that you can pull out of the system to show how your business is doing on a day-to-day basis, an hourly basis, but overall too, what's the overall health of your business, what are and metrics that you can show a potential buyer. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. Let's build the business that you want to be running in 10 years. What do you want that to look like? And so we kind of work backwards from there.
Let's talk about hosting a podcast. Now,
Yeah.
as I said earlier, you actually a show that still is being shown, Hitting Home with Becky Coletta.
Yep.
But now you host a show called AI for Growth, Lessons from Leaders.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the inspiration of launching such a show, and what has it been like to speak with these different individuals who have implemented AI into their businesses?
Yeah. So I am loving the podcast because I'm actually learning a lot while we're doing the podcast. So I interview. I think I've covered. I don't know, there's probably 25 episodes, and so no two companies have been the same. I even actually had a Boston University professor talk about AI in the classroom for children and how that's changing the college campus life and learning process. Well, so I've gone a little bit farther afield than just business owners, but it has been fascinating because one of the things that I wanted to do was, again, this effort to say, AI is not scary. It's only scary if you're not doing it. 95% or 100% of businesses that aren't utilizing AI won't be here in 5 years because you can't compete with companies that are starting. As an example, I work with a woman who, she'll be on the podcast, whom is a sort of like a large learning model person from the 80s, right? She's been in AI or automation for 30 years, way before anybody was talking about it. She now exclusively advises like Pepsi and all these big organizations on how they need to turn the ship towards AI. And one of the trainings that she does is she brings in the entire executive team. So these are people who have got 30 years of experience, they're all MBAs from Harvard, whatever. And she says to them, I want you to forget everything you've ever learned about business. You have just graduated from college yesterday, and I'm going to teach you today, in the next 3 weeks, how to run this business in the age of AI, because nothing that you were doing before will work. And even Pepsi can go out of business, basically. And so it's kind of a scary landscape. She's basically saying small businesses will not survive because in her instance, she starts and exits business all the time. She just started a business like 3 weeks ago, and in 2 weeks she had 70 AI employees working for her. Like you can't, if you apply that to anything, like literally any business, how can you compete with somebody who has 70 employees?
You can't.
You can't. There's no way. You don't have enough time. So the minimal thing that companies should be doing is bolting AI onto their organizations, right? In ways that are going to generate revenue and help them grow. And there are simple, easy ways to do that, and I help them do that. But that's kind of the landscape that we're dealing with, right? And so given that, what I really wanted to do was with the podcast was bring on leaders who can talk about how they're implementing it in their individual business. So as an example, I have someone who runs a nail salon who I did a podcast with. If you're running a nail salon, you should listen to that because she's using it in some really cool ways. She's doing all of her financial, everything financial she's doing online with AI. She is using all of her booking is AI, all of her follow-up. Like she has an amazing system in place. So it's like, how can we learn from other leaders and just skip the learning curve, right? Like, so the podcast is really focused on applicable tools. Like I don't want to talk about AI in theory. I want to talk about like you as a business owner, what tool, how much did it cost you to implement? How did you implement it? How long did it take you? What problem did it solve? Right, so we get really granular, and that's what I love about it, that it's really practical for people. And it's been very, very fun to have for that reason.
I will say that your show, your podcast, clean, it's fantastic. I love your background, and it's not just some,
it's my office.
It's your office, and it looks fantastic. And
Thank
you. Usually whoever you have on is very well spoken, somebody who is a lot of the guests are very relatable.
Yes. Thank you.
Talking about some of the interviews and the conversations that you've had, you said some 25 so far.
Yeah.
Many of them that can be seen here on AvidCam. Just check your regularly scheduled programs. Have there been any conversations that have changed the way you think about AI or business growth moving into the future?
Yeah. So there's one in particular that I remember feeling like my mind was blown because I hadn't thought about it yet. But so we think about SEO. So companies spend a lot of money trying to improve their SEO and their online search, right? Being able to come up in Google as an example. And the statistics on the way people are searching is insane. So in 1 month, as an example, I think it was January to February, maybe February to March of this past year, we went from 30% of people searching for businesses in the GPT model, as opposed to Google, to 40% in just 1 month. right? So they're predicting that by 2027, 90% or more of searches will be done in a GPT. So you're going to leave Google entirely behind. You won't be searching in that way. So all of that SEO, what does that do for you, right? And what I found out from this company, the CEO who basically runs a company to help companies figure out how to be searchable in AI, is that they use they're using different indexes, right? And kind of what's old is new again. So for example, in the GPTs, they're highly monitoring reviews. Boston, the Better Business Bureau, they're going to like hard sources to verify those businesses. They're not scrolling for words necessarily on their website, right? So the what you need to pay attention to with regard to being able to show up is totally different. And so I was like kind of blown away by that. Like I didn't think about that the criteria by which you would show up would be so different, and it is very different. So how you show up in Google is not how you show up on ChatGPT. So I thought that was really cool, and that was one of my favorite episodes because I was like, oh, really?
So let me ask you this. For the average person who's
Yes.
watching right now, if somebody is using ChatGPT, are they actually using AI?
No, I mean, yes, technically they are. So I help my business owners do a couple things, and this is just like something you can do, like take a takeaway from today. Your GPT model, whichever one you choose, whether it's Claude or Chat, whatever the one your favorite is, I encourage people to use one though, because it is learning how you do everything. And if you're trying to train multiple platforms, it's just like you're spreading yourself too thin. So choose one. They're all like, ChatGPT and Claude are not that different, and people have their favorites. But no matter which path you choose, right? Let's say you're doing ChatGPT. You need to train it on who you are, right? So an origin story. So you can set up a project folder, and you can call it your origin story, right? And so you use that origin. You're gonna have to invest a couple hours in this, right? You want to load that folder up with everything about you and your business, right? So your posts that you've written, right? Because you want it to learn how you write, how you speak. You can voice record into it something that you would say. You want to put in all your marketing materials, all your logos, pictures of yourself, any articles that were written about you, links to your website, links to all the events that you run, like as much, your proposals, your contracts, everything you want to load up into your origin story. And then you want to tell it, moving forward, anytime I ask you a question about anything, you are going to refer first to this folder. So now you're going to the difference in the response that you will get from your GPT model after sharing your origin story is like night and day. So when people say, well, I use ChatGPT, but it doesn't really sound like me, and then I have to change it, it's like, well, did you do an origin? Does it know what you sound like? How much time did you spend telling it who you are, how you speak, or how you write, right? So now when I use the GPT, it's very hard to discern whether it's me or it's AI, because it writes very much like me, because I've loaded so much of what I've written previously into it so that it understands who I am. So it's an amazing tool, but you do have to use it in a certain way. The other thing to keep in mind is you are part of the mass learning if you do not pay for GPT. So if you don't pay for a Claude account, you don't pay for a ChatGPT, you're actually part of a learning process that's happening globally, and your information is not safe. So there's no privacy you can expect. So don't put your financial information into a ChatGPT or a model if you're not paying for it. Like everything you put in there is not safe if you don't. Once you start paying for it, there's an expectation, and there's a sort of written document on the back end that says this is considered private between you and your GPT, just like it would be Microsoft Word or Microsoft Office, and so you just have to be aware of that it's open season if you are not paying for your program.
And what is Megan Driscoll's go-to? You use the Claude. Do you like Claude?
So
is that the one you like?
I do
Gemini
both.
or?
Yeah, Gemini's come a long way, and I actually just had I had not done a lot of segments on Gemini, and I did just have a business owner who runs an oil and gas company, believe it or not, who loves Gemini and was telling me a lot of new things that Gemini has come out with. So I love Gemini. I think that's a good spot for people. I don't think it's not my first choice. I love Claude because I love cowork. Claude Cowork is wonderful if you have multiple employees because you can all be working together and collaborating, and it can essentially you can create agents with Claude Cowork. So you can actually create your first AI employee within Claude Cowork. And I know that sounds like a big stretch from like A to Z, and it kind of is, but you just have to kind of get there. But I also use ChatGPT a lot as well, and I have a full set of project folders that I use on a regular basis. So I am not following my own advice, but I do like both, and I like them differently. I do Claude Cowork with my employees and my company, but I do a lot more like personal stuff, and because I have a lot of, as you know, I have a lot of side projects.
You do. Let's talk about AI. It is rapidly evolving. What trends or developments should business owners be paying attention to in the next year, the next 3 years, the next 5 years? Have you had insight on that, or is it just something that it's a common sense thing to kind of keep an eye on some of these things as it becomes more aware?
Well, I would say that there's too many people waiting on the sideline to see what happens. I think that's like you've already, like the horse is out of the barn at this point. So if you're not looking into and implementing AI to help you grow, and grow, I would say even like help you maintain, right? Even if you have a business that's like, I'm good, I don't really want more business, I don't really want to grow, I just want to maintain. That's at risk if you're not using AI to maintain, because your other competitors are doing so, right? Like it's like saying, like if I run any company, let's say, and I have an existing set of customers, these other organizations that are starting with an AI, they're starting with AI inbred, right? Like this is the way they run their business. They are contacting your customers on such a regular basis and selling to them. They're lowering the costs. They're going to cut into your existing customers. You have to create some automation. You have to be reaching out to, you have to be nurturing your existing clients. So it's not even for companies that want to grow. It's for companies that want to stay in business. That's really how important it is. So I think there's far too many people staying on the sidelines. I also think there's far too much conversation about it wiping out all work, right? And that all employees are going to disappear. It's not going to happen. Anybody that's worked extensively with AI knows that it needs to be directed. I do think we are going to see an issue with new grads continue, which has already started. I think new grads coming into the workplace, they're fewer and far between jobs, because a lot of that work can be automated and outsourced to AI agents that a senior level person is overseeing. So I do think we're going to see an issue there for sure, and that's probably going to continue. Hopefully that means that our new grads and our universities are going to have to step up their game, and they're going to produce people who can oversee and implement AI technology out of college. That is not happening right now, and almost really anywhere. I mean, there are very few universities that have taken this on as like an example. You can graduate with an AI major, right? That's really where this is where education has to go. If we are to solve the problem of new grads kind of coming into the workforce and not knowing anything about it, or knowing they can do ChatGPT and that's it, but not really understanding all the ways in which AI is changing business. So in any event, I think that there's far too much conversation about that. We don't really need to necessarily be worried about that just yet, but we do need to really be worried about how we're implementing AI into our organizations to both maintain and grow, or both.
Well, last thing you want to be is a buggy whip in a fossil fuel or electric powered world. Last thing you want to be.
Exactly.
Right? So if listeners could or viewers could take anything away from our conversation today in regards to AI or anything that's going to help grow a business, what would you want them to take away from this conversation?
AI is not scary, right? Like that it's not this big bad thing that is going to ruin your business. It is, think of it as automation, think of it as revenue generating, think of it as sales process, think of it as fun in many ways, and it's not that expensive to implement. It's not that it's not that hard to maintain once you implement it, and it's about the pace, it's about the choice of platform, and it's about taking it slow at first and just kind of like dipping your toe in. And if you're using ChatGPT and asking it questions and having it help you write proposals, you're already starting the process. There's so much more you can do with it. There's so much more, and it's just about choosing the right programs, basically.
Where can folks find out more about you, learn it, maybe view your podcast, or maybe they want to, hire you or they need to consult you, how can they do all
Yeah.
that?
So my website is my name, Megan Driscoll, Megan, Driscoll, megandriscoll.com, and you can click a free business audit there. There's multiple places to do that. The AI for Growth Lessons from Leaders is on Spotify, it's on YouTube, and it's on Apple Podcasts. And here as well. We drop episodes every 2 weeks on Thursdays, but there's a whole group. Go back and look through them. I'm sure there's a business that is similar to yours that I've spoken to already, and hopefully you'll get something really fun out of that. The people I talk to, they are fun. I mean, business owners are fun anyway, so it's always a good conversation. Yeah, those are the two places, the two ways to get more info.
I want to thank you so much for coming and being our guest. Love to maybe have you back in 6 months.
Yes.
Maybe we can kind of explore where AI is. Maybe we might have to wait a little bit longer. Maybe not so much. Just to kind of bring folks up to speed and keep them in the loop as to how things go, especially if you are a business owner, it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, no, I would be happy to as things change. I mean, the world is changing at such a rapid pace in business with AI that 6 months is a perfect time to come back. And I will tell you that things will be different.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me, as always.
You got it. We want to thank you for tuning into a show like Community Chat. Again, the idea is to keep you informed of the fast-paced, the ever-changing world that we live in. We hope that you'll tune in for yet another episode. But until next time, have yourself a great day.